I am exactly where I need to be in this moment. I am in complete harmony with those around me who share this moment with me. I contribute only truth and love to those around me. I am being used as a beacon of light to transmit God's divine purpose to others. I will bring peace to this moment. Now let there be truth, love, light, and peace. When one meanders about her tedious life in oblivion, she is likened to being asleep. Yet, there are moments in such a life that are requisite in her awakening. These moments are also known as visions, and if one can maintain vigilance during these moments, one may begin to unravel the tightly woven thread of her life's purpose. And of course, as with anything in life, when one first awakens to a new beginning, she must strengthen her muscles of awareness. This gets easier with time, and when one strengthens a certain muscle, it is nearly impossible for the other muscles to be neglected.
Welcome to Vision Class.
The web-based open classroom that helps its students interconnect to achieve their visions and find their life's greater purpose. Students can join Vision Class by simply logging onto YouTube and subscribing to the Vision Class channel. For a duration of 12 weeks, Vision Class will air a 1-hour lecture every Friday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, beginning Friday, June 7th, 2013.
So to stay abreast of what's going on in class and to always be aware, just remember you just want to go to our Facebook or Google Plus pages and you want to download the syllabus. Or you can download the syllabus directly by clicking on the link below. We have had some technical difficulties with downloading the syllabus, especially from Android phones. But in which case, if you're having any difficulties, never hesitate to email me at sugarfreemail@rocketmail.com, where I will answer questions and I will also be available to submit to you the syllabus if you are having issues with downloading it.
There are 6 class texts you will need for Vision Class. Creative Visualization by Shakti Gawain, Write It Down, Make It Happen by Henriette Ann Clouser, The Isaiah Effect by Greg Braden or A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, The Spontaneous Healing of Belief by Greg Braden, and The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
The whole purpose of Vision Class is to interconnect, is to share, is to gain everyone's insight and testimonials such that your own vision is fueled. We want you not only to find your visions in life, but we want to use those visions as points on a map to help you figure out your life purpose, your life path.
Vision Class is updated constantly with information and changes that are vital to each student's success, so it is important that students remain vigilant of these updates on their own. By accessing our Facebook and Google Plus sites, students can find everything from the course syllabus to free downloadable texts by the mere click of a button. To access all Vision Class links for Facebook, simply click on the Notes section. To access all Vision Class links for Google Plus, simply click on the About tab at the top of the page and scroll down to the Links section. Students can also access the Vision Class calendar from one of the aforementioned sections, which allows you a quick glance of all dates, times, and assignments for Vision Class.
For your daily assignments, you'll need 3 notebooks to get started.
A notebook of any size to be utilized as a journal, labeled as the Legacy Book. A small notebook that is portable to carry with you at all times, labeled as the Intention Book. And a medium to large size notebook to help you take notes and complete class assignments labeled as the vision book. You will also need a presentation board of any kind, which you will update throughout class with inspirations and visions you hope to achieve in your life, newly titled the Envision Board.
This class is not, I will say it a million times, if you've never heard me say it once, you're going to hear me say it now. This class is not about what you're able to accomplish. Okay, it is about what you do with your time. So it's not just, hey, I'm able to cover all the text material, Shira, now what? Because you can read all these books all day long and never become aware of your reality. No, this class is about how you connect to yourself, how you connect to your creator. How do you do that? By what you put into the class. This is about how to interconnect with your fellow students and find a way that works for you, such that this becomes a habit. And once this way of life becomes a habit for you, you will notice how easy it is to incorporate the elements of this class into your life.
Today in Vision class, we will discuss all of the tools for trusting your vision with belief. Today's reading is from The Artist's Way, Week 11, pages 179 through 191, in The Spontaneous Healing of Belief, the first half of the book, though today we will cover the introductory through the 3rd chapters. Today's assignment is to continue morning pages, artist date, and jotting dreams and visions in your vision book, continue printing photos and working on your envision board to be completed by week 13, post any vision actualizations that you've experienced on Facebook or Google+, and to post the findings of any exercises you have done in the Artist's Way on Facebook or Google+. Alright, welcome to week 11 of Vision class. I'm Shira. I am hosting, I am teaching, I am taking the class with you. If you have made it here, you are in home stretch. Next week is the last week. Now, normally envision boards would be due, but I decided that we need to add another element to the envision board, something I should have explained earlier on, but whatever. Now's the time. Now, I know that the impression of the envision board right now stands as something where you have a lot of cutouts of the individual dreams and things you hope to pursue. But pictures do not capture feeling. And as we learned in week 6, or rather, as we learned in week 7, the prayer is the feeling. So if you cannot embody feeling with every one of your photos, then you are essentially just wasting your time doing an envision board. So just so you all are aware, an envision board should engage your senses. Sight, of course, smell, taste, touch, texture, all of these things should be engaged when you have your envision board, because every time that you walk past it, you will get a 3-dimensional view, which thus is the reality you live in. So you won't get this 2-dimensional view of pictures and things that you like. You're also getting emotional. Another thing that I saw on Oprah's website about vision boards, and we are calling ours an envision board, is to have things that create sound, right? So things that you can hear. And no, I do not mean cut out, your Build-A-Bear voice box and post it on there. That's not what I mean. So of course, this could include some sort of a digital recording of your voice saying an affirmation. That's creative and everything, but I was more thinking along the lines of something that creates noise within your own body, something that you create on the spot. So for example, if I put a picture of my child up, right, on my envision board, it may not represent anything other than the sound that I'm going to emit from my body when I see her picture, right? Because if you see a picture of someone you care for deeply, you're gonna go, "Aw," or your child, you're gonna go, "Oh," you'll make a noise. And why is this important? Because you're feeding your envision board. It's a living thing, right? Everything comes from a thought, and every
thought is life. It's coming from, you can't have thought with no life in your body. There's just no such thing, right? So the only way that you're thinking is because you're alive, right? That's kind of makes sense. So if you want your things on your envision board to manifest, something that will help is to engage the sense of sound through things that create feeling and emotion. That way, every time that you look at your envision board, you get a refreshment. It's not just there, it's something that creates. It creates sound within you, which is life, right? So the fact that you can have, again, anything that you're able to do, whether it's I call it the sense of thought. People don't call thoughts one of your senses. One of your senses, you only have 5 senses, and people don't consider thought one of those 5 senses. Well, it's the only way it makes sense, because you make sense in your mind. So to me, a thought is a sense that you can engage. That's more what I look at thought as. So it's not just something that you do and exhaust yourself doing. It's very conscious. And so when you have your envision board in front of you and you're able to touch it, maybe if you're like a girly like me, you put diamonds and rhinestones on there, right? Something that glitters and makes you feel like, ooh. Or, maybe you put the fragrance of something that reminds you of something, whether it's been, you were in Egypt and, you were walking by and maybe they had a spice market and you smelled this certain spice and maybe you rub it on there. I don't know. It's just to incite the senses that would remind you of things that that have given you life. It's important to know with belief what you have believed that you've consciously chosen to believe. And we're dealing this week with consciously choosing our beliefs rather than letting our beliefs run away with us, just like our thoughts, right? Our thoughts have created beliefs, but now they're subconscious. So in order for us to consciously bring forward every action, we don't want to necessarily live in our conscious mind. We just want to make sure that what is in the conscious mind is being fed by the subconscious, which we are now going to get aware of through meditation, through self-exploration, which we've done during this entire class. So the idea is that when you walk up on your envision boards, you're not just seeing pictures of the things you want, like the house, because after a while it does get numbing, right? To look at the picture of the house. Sometimes your envision board needs to shift. Sometimes you need to put quotes of affirmations on there. But everything on your envision board should be done with impeccability, as we spoke about last week as one of the 4 agreements. It should actually be done with impeccability, so that everything on there is not just some sort of haphazard conglomeration of cutouts. You want it to feel as if it were very deliberate when you do this envision board, right? You genuinely want to take your time with it. Whether your last artist date is to section off 4 hours in a day just to make this feel right, you want it to emit feeling towards you so that you can invoke feeling within you so that you can bring it out. It's the cycle of life. It's duality. It's everything we've been talking about in this class. As above, so below. If you reflect in front of you, and we'll talk about this today, if you're reflecting in front of you a mirror of something that you want to be mirrored back to you, right? You see, we're the mirror in which our environment is now a reflection. Excuse me. We're the mirror through which our outer reality is reflected. And we'll talk about that today. And so if the mirror that you're looking at is your envision board, but that's like your future mirror, right? If everything came true, you'd want yourself to match all the things that could manifest in that space, which we talked about last week, right? Only certain things can resonate, we'll talk about that this week, in certain aspects of your reality. You cannot resonate. I'll give you a great example. If you are homeless and you're homeless and you're unhappy being homeless, then you cannot resonate the things that a person who has a home would resonate with. You would not resonate with the things that a person with a home would resonate with, which is why you are now resonating with the truth that you are homeless. For whatever reason, you have now believed it. You've now agreed with it. It is your reality. So we're working on changing those things, right? This is part of, again, our practice in order to receive, in order to manifest. So just make sure your envision board is reflecting the reality that you hope to once achieve, right? And that is a reality. You don't want a 2-dimensional reality. You want a 3-dimensional reality. You want a multi-dimensional experience, right? Make sure that your envision board is absolutely reflective of the type of future that you would like to bring into focus. And that way you can begin to reflect it. Thus, you become the reflection of that. as you continue looking at your envision board every time that you walk past it. And make sure that with your envision boards, you're putting them in places where, number one, everyone does not get to see. And number two, it's going to be a place that you get to just often enough, but not so often that it becomes mundane. You kind of want to stumble on your envision board. You know, maybe put it in an area like, I'm trying to think of an area where you might not necessarily, okay, you might go in your closet how many times a day? Hopefully just once. So hopefully maybe in just the morning time, you go and you visit your closet. Well, great. In the morning time, you get an extra boost of your affirmations, or you get an extra boost of the energy of the envision board that you've created, because you put energy in, it has to emanate energy out, right? So you want to make sure that your envision board is making you proud. It's not just cutouts. In fact, if you don't even have a cutout of something you want on your envision board, what if you just list it on the side? And what if all of the pictures that you have instead invoke energy from you? What if all the pictures you have on your envision board are not reflective at all of the reality you would like to conjure? Think of it that way. And then all you're doing is giving energy to yourself every day that you look at it. And then the things that you want in your deepest subconscious begin to manifest. Because through looking at this envision board, which now is aligned with your emotional aspect, you are creating the prayer. And you're feeding all thoughts. You're not just feeding your thoughts on the conscious mind, you're feeding your subconscious too. So again, this envision board is meant to feed you. Okay, so we're going to do mass prayer and mass meditation. The times will always change. This particular mass prayer is going to be on September 5th, which is a Thursday. And then the mass meditation will be on Thursday, September the 19th, both at 7:30 a.m. So the good news is, if you continue to check your vision class calendars, you will always see the updates of everything as far as I can update it. And just know that you will want to set aside at least half an hour for this prayer and this meditation. They're separate events, okay? And I'm going to try to do them monthly. So we will always have 2 monthly dates, which we will convene in spirit, where we collectively focus our energy. Not just inward, but outward as well when we do prayer. Okay? And just always check the vision class calendar for times. Also, be advised that this weekend I will be, sorry, I was looking for my phone. I thought it rang. Be advised that this weekend we will be having no office hours on Saturday. I will literally physically not be able to make it. However, Sunday's office hours, which I will also not physically be able to make, are going to now be moved to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and will last 2 hours. So at least you'll get 2 hours with me. Some of you who have not ever had the opportunity to come to office hours during the afternoon times, you get an opportunity to come. And those of you who can come normally during those hours and cannot come during these late hours, just think of it as a fair toss-up for those who are not able to come. So that being said, just be advised. We will briefly discuss week 11 right now of Artist's Way. Once again, the information has a tendency of being redundant, for me at least, and so therefore I just wanted to pull out of there something that's a really great tip: moving meditation. Now, we talked about meditation week 8, and we talked about the fact that you want to ground yourself, right? Tay Queen talked about it. I talked about it. Why are we grounding ourselves? As Julie Cameron will discuss, and she's not even necessarily talking about meditation the way that we have talked about it, but she understands meditation as being a formless way of focusing on the now. That's essentially all that meditation is, right? Or channeling the same brainwave function as you would during dream state. So that being said, Julie Cameron suggests that one of the ways of grounding yourself is through walking or moving meditation. This way you're physically actually grounding yourself. And of course, people don't consider walking meditative, but it is, right? Because we all have these preconceived notions of what meditation is. We even limit ourselves with what meditation is. It's sitting in this position, doing an Om mantra. No, That's some people. That's not everybody. If anyone can tap into the formless that is, the formless state that is, if you can tap into that, who cares how you do it? And who cares what it's called? It is meditation. And who cares whether or not you call it meditation? You know what you're doing. You're focusing your energy inward. So this is a great tip. And again, we ground ourselves because meditation takes you so far away. And again, people are looking at this, and I hate to speak so figuratively in this class at times because people are so literal. They still are not out of their left brain. They're still not out of their ego. So, or rather, they still are identified with their ego. So because people are listening to me literally, they're not hearing what I'm really saying. Right? You have to hear the intention of people at the same time, which is very difficult to do. But you don't hear intention without intuition, right? Without inner voice. And you don't develop that until you begin to be, so everything's reciprocal. So everything is reciprocal. So if you hear my intention, then you know that you are understanding inner self. And if you are understanding inner self, then eventually you know you will understand my intention. That being said, when you meditate, no matter what the form of meditation is, sometimes cooking is meditation for people, right? Sometimes sewing is meditation for people. For some people, painting is meditation. It's when you take yourself out of the future and the past and you zone in. And you can enter a trance doing many things. How many of us listen to music and enter a trance? How many of us exercise and enter a trance? So we all enter meditative states. Anytime that we're zoned out on anything. Sometimes you're in class and you start daydreaming. Guess what? Meditative state. Now, better to control your meditative state than for it to control you, wouldn't you say? At least you can dominate that. So that being said, meditation. So this week is called Belief, Learning How to Trust Your Vision. So this week we're talking about belief and how to trust your vision. Why is belief trusting your vision? You have subconscious beliefs. We'll talk about this today. You have subconscious beliefs. So subconscious beliefs are what actually dominate 90% of what you do every single day. 90% of your activity. What, Cheryl? Wait, what? Yes. So what I'm trying to literally tell you is that your entire day is monopolized by subconscious beliefs. What if you don't know what's in there, right? You can develop a limited perspective of life. In fact, something really poignant that Greg Braden said is, your subconscious may be short-circuiting possibilities in your life by trying to get childhood needs met by using updated techniques. What does that mean? That means your entire life has been usurped by the dominating subconscious thoughts and beliefs that were put into your mind when you were a child, when you could not choose what to believe, when you don't even remember half of what you learned during that time, but you still are affected by it today. So what you do subconsciously now, you work through the subconscious, is you find situations in life that mirror back to you the version of yourself that you are during the childhood when you were being monopolized. It's that deep. That's why psychiatrists and psychologists ask you about your childhood. They ask you about your childhood because on a very deep level, everything you do is because of your childhood. I found this revelation out this week and I was mind blown. I mean, I was blown. When I read, now let me tell you something about these books. Vision class has very residual effects. Sometimes you are taking vision class and you hear something I say and it's like, okay, whatever. And then like 3 weeks later, your eyes are like, boing, oh my God, I understood that. That's what happens to me when I'm reading these books. That's what happens to me when I pull my dress up. That's what happens to me when I meditate. I'll meditate, I'll receive a message. How do you receive a message? It's just a sense that you get, and the more that you develop this muscle or the more that you exercise this muscle of meditation, you begin to further understand exactly what's happening. So don't force it, right? Because it is the most brilliant moment in life when you look up and you realize that, oh my God, I understand exactly what was happening in that moment. That's the most beautiful moments of life, right? To look back in hindsight and to understand something, which now generates more core positivity into your life, right? So we want to understand that you cannot trust your visions if you don't believe they're going to work from a fundamental subconscious core level, which is why you have to do all of this work all the time, and it's exhausting. And we're going to week 12 and we're like, oh my God, it's over finally. Thank God, but it's not over. You will do this work the rest of your life, and if you don't do this work the rest of your life, you will look up finding yourself asking why. Because you have so many things stored into your memory, stored into your subconscious that you are not aware of, and it will keep coming back to you continuously. Everyone who has ever quit vision class, everyone who has ever disagreed with vision class, I will tell you this. I don't care about vision class. I care about you. And guess what you're going to do? You will look up one day and realize that other techniques just don't work. Not just the techniques in vision class, all right? But these are some of the techniques that are either the core fundamental techniques of life, or they are embedded within other techniques that you would apply during life. Nonetheless, you will always come back to the realization that you have to write. You will always come back to the realization that you have to pray. You will always come back to the realization that you have to have gratitude. These are fundamental life concepts. It always comes back. So that is why we try to teach you in a very quick 12 weeks just the fundamentals. You are to take it and research it. You are to take it and to build upon it so that you can have your own understanding, because it is your belief that allows you to trust your vision. So if you don't even believe what's going on here, you have to believe it within yourself in your own way, and that's how everybody works. And so I don't expect everyone to adopt everything from vision class. You know, when they leave here, I understand that we all will take things from it that work for us. We will take things that do not. But when we realize something is not working for us, we must realize that we are not working from within. So that is why belief is about trusting your vision. This is the hardest work that you guys will ever do. In fact, it's such hard work, I'm going to talk about it in terms of cancer. We all have met, know, loved, lived with, encountered someone who has had cancer and who has died from it. Raise your hand if you don't know any soul, whether it be by a degree of separation or not, that has died from cancer. I know many people who have died from cancer. And I find it intriguing, the disease, because as above, so below. Every time we talk about as above, so below, what I am implying is that you could look at something in scientific nature / physical environment, and it can be reflected to another physical environment, or it can be also reflected to an inner state of consciousness. But as above, so below simply means everything is a reflection of something else, always. Anytime you see anything in this world, when you look at it for what it is, you can begin to see that it has a mate. That's why we have this, all of everything is in twos. We're learning with this book, The Spontaneous Healing of Belief, we learn that everything is in twos. Duality, the way that we look at computer is through binary information. What's binary? Bi meaning two. Bi, right? Zeros and ones, right? I know that this is very, listen, every time we talk about reality, we're talking about two sides of every story, at least, right? We're always talking about duality, something in juxtaposition that is equal and opposite, in balance, in homeostasis, in equilibrium to another thing. So when you look at cancer, you have to understand that there's another reason that cancer has emerged as rampantly as it has been. Are we talking about children with cancer? Are we talking about people who haven't lived their lives with cancer? I'm not speaking in terms of how they got cancer. I cannot speak on that. The fact that it exists is what I'm looking at. You have to begin to think, where do I see cancer reflected? What is like cancer? And I ascertained subconscious thought can be like cancer. What is subconscious thought? Belief. Belief can be conscious. Don't get it twisted. However, belief emerges always from a deeper subconscious level. Always. I will say that again. Belief always emerges from a subconscious level. Why? Belief is given to you. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but it's given to you. Now, several months ago, I did the Phases of Rebirth video. It has served to enhance my argument time and time again during this vision class, but so it's a must-see hour-long video. It's called Phases of Rebirth. Now, during this, if you have not seen it, I discuss the ages at which landmark things happen in order to help you to try to get to this inner self, which is called rebirth. So there are phases that this happens in. Of course, these are not law, but it tends to look as if it's a little bit scientific. When I read in Spontaneous Healing of Belief that you have until age 7 to absorb everything that you can absorb, obviously give or take a year, that has reinforced my first innocence phase of Phases of Rebirth. That reinforces that concept. That was reinforced in the 4 agreements. That has also been reinforced in the artist way. Why is your artist a child? Why are we talking about childhood constantly? Why are we going back to this? People do not have it in their heads yet. This is what I'm trying to say. How many people do I have to shake? It's all from our childhood. All of it. Every nasty, dirty, grimy thing that you have done, and you are sitting and saying to yourself and banging your head against the wall and asking yourself, why is this way? Why can't I believe this? Because you cannot. It's so deeply entrenched within you. And here's the funny thing about thought. That's not even funny at all. But here's the funny thing. You don't even know that it's there. And you believe what you believe because it's there, but yet you don't even know that it's there. Very similarly, belief is like your body, right? Your body runs itself. Do you have to tell your body to digest its food? Do you have to tell your body, your pancreas, to secrete insulin to break down the sugars that you ingest? Do you have to tell your heart to beat? Do you have to tell your brain neurons to fire in such a way that you can have the internal muscle memory to move your hand? Do you have to do any of that? Do you have to tell yourself to breathe? Guess who handles that? This guy right here. Subconscious mind handles that. 90% of what you do. Guess what else? 90% of what you think. Why is 90-10 coming back up, Shira? I don't know. Because this class today is going to teach you about these patterns, about these recurring themes that are in nature, and also they're within our consciousness, I should say, which is subconscious and conscious mind put together. We have the tendency as human beings, we have the tendency to move forward with our beliefs in such a way that we actually believe that they're correct, right? We actually believe that they're correct. We have no other knowledge of them being anything other than correct. We don't examine them for that very reason. They're correct. Why would we examine them? Here's why we would examine them. We don't tell our pancreas to secrete insulin, but what if our pancreas stopped secreting insulin? Diabetes. And what if it stopped? Would we look at it then? Well, sure, we'd look at it then. We'd have a problem. Oh, I'd say so. But how many diabetics have you seen lose an arm, a leg, a foot, a finger, an extremity of some kind, simply because they knew that they had diabetes, but they ate what they wanted to anyway? That, and I'm not judging, but let's just be real, that is the group of people who right now in this class, or not in this class, especially not in this class, who I want to say, so you see there's an issue, and yet, instead of examining it, I will continue comforting with what I'm used to, which is, if you're diabetic, it would be sugary foods, right? Okay, so this is what thought does. Thought is implanted in your body like a cancer. Thought, it's implanted in your body like a cancer. Now that cancer can be dormant. That cancer can spread. So this is like a cancer inside of your body that spreads. Your thoughts grow into other thoughts. Sooner or later, they become tumors inside of your body, right? Your thoughts, giant tumors that you lug around. And then those tumors finally are likened to your belief system. right? A series of tumors throughout your entire body. So here's how thought is likened to cancer. Cancer is when, now cancer itself is not the tumor. The cancer tells the tumor to grow, right? But the cancer creates the environment for the tumor to grow. But the tumor itself is an aggregate of tissue cells, right? So imagine your thoughts as being tissue cells. And they aggregate together and they come together and they create a belief, right? What's a thought? I don't like her outfit. What's another thought? I don't like the fact that she wore tribal stuff today. What's another thought? Matter of fact, I don't like black people. What's another thought? You know what? I don't like that she looks African and, and then up forms a belief. And that belief is called racism. Shira always uses the racism example, but that's because it's the first thought that comes to mind. So you have these aggregates of thought which create tumors, which are belief. Guess what though? When you don't know the tumor is there, let's talk about real reality now. Physical reality, when you have a tumor that you don't know that is there, as I said a week ago or two, you don't even know that it's there. It's killing everything inside of you and you don't know it yet. You're living as if it's fine. Now you may notice it, do something about it. You may notice it, do nothing about it. You may notice it and can't do anything about it. Right? It might be that last phase of rebirth. You might have to wait a while before you can even try to do something. Maybe you die before you do anything about it. But the whole idea is to assume you have a tumor. Let's assume that we're sick, right? Because what's that called? That's called a checkup, right? When you go to the doctor for a physical, do you have something wrong with you? Not necessarily. So why would you go for a checkup? I just want to check if I have a tumor. Amen. So that is the approach to this class. Assume you have these cancerous tumors growing inside you, because guess what? If you're not happy in your life, you do. That's where it's showing up at. Okay? Now something as simple as a thought let me tell you how powerful thoughts are. Something as simple as a thought that was implanted in you in your early childhood is showing up in your adulthood. It's being reflected back to you from childhood to adulthood. Do you know how strong that thought has to be? That's because it's a belief. It's not just a thought anymore. It's not just one cell. It's an aggregate of cells. It is a tumor now. It's actually causing a problem. You see, cancer is just cells multiplying at a rapid rate that begins to overtake the body. Now cells are supposed to replicate. They're supposed to. That's their normal function. Why is it abnormal? Because it's not in balance. It's out of balance. That's why it's a cancer. Do you understand? So if you have thoughts that are out of balance with your belief, your reality is out of balance. And why? Because thoughts are things. Why are thoughts things? Well, we're going to get to that right now. Thoughts are things because they are energy, right? Everything is made of the same stuff. Everything. When you break everything down to its common denominator, it's all that nothingness and that space we've been talking about for weeks. So if everything, I mean literally, everything is nothing, no thing. Etymology. Everything is no thing at the same time. I will say this again. Everything is no thing at the same time. That is the premise by which you must operate, from which you must operate when you are doing this class today. Everything is made out of the same thing. Everything. My breath, my physical body, this camcorder, even the World Wide Web, which is a concept. The World Wide Web is not a thing. You can't put the web in your purse. Excuse me, let me just go get the internet and put it in my purse. No, you put your phone in your purse, you put your computer in your bag, but you cannot pick up the internet. So it's also made of the same stuff. What is that stuff? Energy! In other words, energy. That's the best way I can describe it to you that makes sense. Everything's made of energy. In the most simplistic of forms that'll make sense to you, everything is made of energy, right? What made the energy? What created the energy? The divine creator, okay? So that being said, that's what was created. That's what everything is. Everything ultimately is that. Everything put together is an aspect of God because God created it, right? It's an aspect of. So everything has God in it. Everything has God in it, right? That being said, let me tell you how I chose this book, and let me tell you what this book is a little bit about, and let me tell you why you should read this book. So, I believe strongly in everything that I'm telling you. I believe it consciously. I've worked to believe it. I've worked to dismantle old agreements and to build new ones to allow myself to believe what I believe now. And I believe it is truth, and that's exactly what belief is. So I was in Barnes & Noble, and I wanted a book on quantum physics, and I specifically wanted this book to detail quantum physics. I was not in a quantum physics section. I was in a metaphysics section, but I was not in a quantum physics section because there is no quantum physics section there. And I just said, whatever book I touch or whatever book I gravitate towards, that is the book. Not knowing that there was going to be a vision class at that time, not ever knowing how I would use this book. I put my finger on the book. It was Spontaneous Healing of Belief. I flipped it over. It's about quantum physics. Ha ha ha. Weird twist of irony. It's by Greg Braden, who I was reading at the time. And I laughed. I said, okay, this is the book, without questioning it. I go and I read the book. I'm blown away. And I only read it in class with you guys. So I actually assigned this book to you guys without ever having read it, knowing in my soul that this book was needed for this class, and it is. This book is a scientific perspective of everything we've learned spiritually. Why is that important? Because belief is based off of evidence. Next week, we're going to talk about faith, not evidence, but belief is based in evidence. Belief is based in truth. The evidence doesn't have to be real truth, okay? You know, how many times have people gotten off on trials with evidence that does not implicate them, however they are guilty? You know, cold case files and stuff like that, where they reopen cases and they got new technology and they find out that you did it. But okay, the evidence did not implicate you, and that's the law. That's exactly that is exactly why Don Miguel Ruiz referred to your life and your belief system as a book of law, because it functions like the law. Not always fair, right? It's not always fair. Like, someone who murdered someone is going to get a different sentence than someone who raped someone. Or someone who sells drugs is going to get a different sentence than someone who murdered someone. Sometimes less or more of a sentence than someone who got than a murderer, right? Does that seem fair? No, necessarily, but that's what we got. So this book analogizes consciousness as a computer. And the reason for that is the similarities between an actual computer and the way that your mind is programmed or runs is like a computer. And you are programmed. You're programmed with belief. And that is why he uses the computer model as the premise and the basis of reference for this book. So what do you need to know about the computer? When you read this book, you're going to definitely get a huge scientific gust of what the hell just happened. And you're going to probably be confused, because even at parts I was like, I need to read that about 10 times. Okay, and I am definitely a science person. However, there were times when I'm like, come again? And then I get it later on. But it's one of those books. So you don't necessarily need to fixate on the literal analogy of a computer. There are times when it comes in handy, and in fact, if you understand computers, then you can understand your consciousness. But that's all I would say to take it for. I'm going to pull out concepts from this book that are not necessarily specifically about that aspect of the book, right? I want to more so talk about the belief aspect of this book. So that being said, everything is made of the same thing, energy. Belief is based in evidence now. So faith is different. But if you have belief in something, it doesn't have to be true for you to believe it. So if I believe the sky is green, it might not be green, but that's not going to change my belief, right? My faith is very different. My faith is something that I haven't seen yet that I believe will happen, okay, because I have faith, because there's no evidence needed for me to believe it. So belief is the acceptance of what we think of as truth, right? It is also the experience, it's an experience that happens in our minds and in our bodies. So the reason why belief is important is because, for example, we're talking about our visions. If you don't believe that they can happen, they're not going to be able to happen, because it's what you regard as truth. So even from a fundamental level, if you're taking vision class and you keep thinking either this work's not going to work or you're not capable of manifesting, then you can't. You literally cannot manifest. Because everything is made of the same thing, then if you change your thoughts, you do change your reality, because it's what everything is ultimately made of. It has been proven that your beliefs change your DNA. You will read this in this book, but it's been proven your DNA shifts. Why do we need to know about this, Shira? Because 40 years ago, you couldn't look that far into somebody's biological structure. You couldn't. You couldn't look at the atom and tell that it is a miniature solar system. Why, Shira, why is that important? Because your beliefs, if they are based out of the rhetoric of things that we could not see, we can now see. So they must change. The truth must change, right? Because that's no longer true. Listen, when the earth was considered flat, do you think that they were ready to believe that it was not? Okay, but just because somebody believes the earth is flat doesn't make it flat. If in reality we now have the tools to see that the earth is round, then why wouldn't we believe the earth is round? Now we should believe the earth is round. We know that it's round. So it's a complete level of denial to believe that the earth is flat. How does that apply to you? If you don't believe that your dreams and visions can manifest, then you might as well not believe this class, because everything in this class is founded from the principle that everything is made of the same thing, ultimately. So if you change your thoughts are light forms of energy, right? You can't grab them, you can't touch them, you can't even see them, but you know that they exist. So if you know that they exist in a light form of energy, in a transient form of energy, right? It's light, it's not heavy. If it were heavy, it would look like this couch. We talked about this before. It would be dense, right? It would be non-moving. But thoughts, they move so quickly, they have so much life, we talked about this earlier, that yes, changing them changes the outside. Because that's the first place that you can change. You can't change. Look, if I want this pillow to become a skirt, don't I have to put energy into it? Don't I have to take it apart? Don't I have to make a pattern out of it, which we're going to talk about in 2 seconds? Don't I have to do all that? So if I got to put energy to this joint to make it look like something else, then guess what? It is not that transmutable, but thoughts are. But we don't see it that way. We don't believe it that way. That is why things don't manifest instantaneously for us. If your belief is abundance, if you always believe you will receive, you will. You will. It's hard to change beliefs because you tend to believe based off of what you see or what you have seen, not that which you have not, which is faith, which we will talk about next week. But nonetheless, we will show you this week how there are tools to transform your inner thinking and your inner beliefs, and how to even find out what they are. So that being said, we talked about pattern making. I just said we were going to make a pattern out of this, and it segues so perfectly into the idea of pattern making. Now, week 6 of gratitude, I talked about gratitude cards or thank you cards as being fractals, right? And when we talk about fractal mathematics, we're talking about things that have patterns, right? Ways to assess something based on the pattern of it. A great example, we can predict the pattern of water. Water is never not going to be water. Even if it's ice, it's still going to be in the same pattern, right? So this is how we can take as above, so below, and we can apply it to our own selves. If we look at ourselves, we don't realize that patterns are what assemble the building blocks of life. So if we know that things are based on patterns, well, what else is a pattern? Your thought processes are patterns, right? Even the way that you live your life is a pattern. If you create a pattern of belief, the only thing that can be mirrored back to you is what your belief is. It is all that can be mirrored back because that is the pattern. And if you shift your patterns to the forefront of your mind, the conscious mind, then you are able to manifest on that level. So that being said, where do beliefs and things come from? Where do beliefs come from? Beliefs come from other people. I'm sorry to say your beliefs are not your own. We talked about thoughts not being your own at the beginning. Well, now guess what else? Your beliefs are also not your own. Darn it, we wait till week 11 to give you that to give you that thought. But that is why it is a tumor inside of your body. It's bad news, is what it is. It's bad news. So that being said, there's a quote here by Donald Rumsfeld, and he talks about, I'm sure you guys have heard this before, there are unknown unknowns. He said there are known knowns, things that we know that we know. There are known unknowns, things that we know we don't know. And then there are unknown unknowns, things that we don't know that we don't even know. That is the wealth of knowledge that is out there in this world of things that we do not know, yet we choose to base our entire reality off of a set of beliefs that were instilled in us in early childhood. Sherry, you mean to tell me that out of everything that could possibly happen on this earth, that I just believe in this small window of things and that's my reality? Yeah, it's called closed-mindedness. That's what that is. Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it? There's all these things on this planet that we don't know about, yet we choose to accept that which we can only see, or that which we have chosen to accept as truth, which is belief. We choose to believe in our beliefs. That's it. That's all. We're not going to check. We're not going to make sure that maybe it's judgmental of us to talk bad about somebody who is of a different gender, or maybe it's judgmental of us to talk about somebody of a different sexuality. Maybe it's judgmental. We're not going to look at that, right? It's our beliefs. It's just wrong. It's wrong. Not going to figure out where that came from, right? How did that pattern get into your mind to where it could grow? I mean, think of a tumor. It's a pattern. It's a pattern of cells clumping together. What else is making a pattern for us? It's called an envision board. What else makes a pattern for us? Doing all the work in this class. Because you're creating a pattern off of which the universe can build. Think of it this way. If someone doesn't give you a blueprint to make a building, how are you going to make it? If I don't write a script for this class, how the hell do I know what I'm going to talk about? How can I be organized? I can't be. It's going to be a clustery of information. So that being said, and so is a tumor. So why again do you want to make a pattern out of belief that you choose? So that your pattern doesn't become a cluster of information that is haphazard. It is now a useful piece of information that you can actually build upon with a strong foundation. The reason why you want to realize that there are unknown unknowns is because there are unknown beliefs that you don't know about, that are dormant, that are dictating the way that you treat not just other human beings, but yourself. You treat yourself bad and don't even know it. I do it too. I do it too. There's no judgment in this class about that. But what I will tell you is it's dominating your life right now. You had better make sure that what's dominating your life is that which you choose to bring into focus, not that which chooses to focus you. So why do we want to know about science? Who cares? I personally wouldn't care about science, except I've seen such a huge reflection of what happens in nature to that which happens in our conscious and subconscious minds. So if that which is in my head is reflected in nature, then they must be related some kind of damn way. I mean, dang, when people start killing each other more, do you notice that the amount of like polar ice caps melting and volcanic activity and stuff like that and tsunamis has the do you ever notice that that has the tendency of making your dress fall down and your fourth boobs showing? Do you ever notice? Do you ever notice that when you're more depressed, you get fatter or skinnier? I don't know. That's why science is important, because science is the religion of the physical world, and religion is the religion of the spiritual world, right? So you need both, because you live in physical reality. Everybody always wants to discount. You are so stuck in your worldly ways. Well, I had better be in some type of world ways. I mean, I don't have to let it dominate me, or I don't have to accept it as my fundamental truth that dominates me, but I must understand of it as a reflection of me. Absolutely. If I didn't have my physical environment, how would I know what was going on in my beliefs? Guess what? You could tell me you love me, and if you put your hands on me, you don't love me. And guess what? Who else you don't love? You don't love yourself. And you have no control of yourself. You putting your hands on me tells me a lot about your beliefs. Me allowing you to put your hands on me tells me a lot about my beliefs. But we choose not to examine our beliefs. I will tell you this in this class. If at any moment you have shook your head, no, that's not me, you're the first one. You are the first one who needs to go and re-examine. Every time I say, this has been the law, the governing law of my life. Every time I have thought it wasn't me, honey, I got reminded that it was me. Every time. It's even crucial for you to just stay cognizant. It's okay. It's okay if it's you some of the time, right? You have to learn from yourself. However, I just ran up some stairs. That's why I'm however, you have to just maintain consciousness. This is not about being perfect. This is about maintaining vigilance. Okay? That's why you do all of that is why you have all these different exercises in class that I recommend to you, because they're going to keep you vigilant of yourself. Listen, I'm not afraid of the man that's outside with the gun. I am afraid of the man that I can't see who has the gun. Right? If I could look outside and see you, I could duck. I at least have a line of sight. I am terrified, I'm not terrified, but I'm just saying, I would be more terrified of the man who I cannot see. That's why the unknown unknowns are important. So we talk about science in this course because it is a great mirror reflection of other things. We can learn a lot from cancer, right? We just did today. We can learn a lot from building buildings. That's art, being an architect. That's also having engineering knowledge, right? Math, you have to understand. Okay, everything required. Like, look, you wouldn't be in the nice car that you put on your envision board if you didn't have science and engineers, right? You wouldn't have them, right? You couldn't get all cute about your fancy red couch if you didn't have somebody to design it, right? Everything which requires math, which goes back to science. So we can't discount science. That's why we're using science in this week to break everything down. Like, look, y'all thought it was conceptual. Now here's the evidence. Why is it important? Once again, we did not have access to this evidence years ago. We didn't even have access to the parts of the Bible that we now have access to. That's important. That's huge that all this stuff is happening at the same time. Do you realize that it happened at the same time? Right about the same time that the web began to proliferate, so did the information that came out of the Qumran caves and the Nag Hammadi library. Ooh, that's kind of coincidental. As above, so below. How many times should we say it? How many times? We're going to say this a lot today because we need to get that ingrained. And guess what? I don't care if you talk about 6 years from now, you're walking down the street, doo-doo-doo, light bulb came on, everything, and oh my God, I know what as above, so below means now. Oh my God, I got it. Once you get it, because I'm not saying it's so hard to get. No, I get it more and more every day. I get it. But I just want to get it more. It's always about awareness. It's always about growth and learning. It will never stop. That's what the Artist Way talks about this week. So that being said, we're going to talk really quickly because we're going to talk about science for a second. So let's talk about something in science that is mirrored in the spiritual reality that people tend to get twisted. It's called the chakra system. Now, we have already mentioned this in office hours, and it was not something I wanted to spend a ton of time on. But anything that comes from Eastern, especially spirituality, religion, or traditions, if you're in the Western culture, people have the tendency to have created a predisposed or a prejudiced knowledge about this information. When you find out that all of the information in the East is based on the science of the West, then you can begin to marry the two and realize that it's not so foreign. So in the East, they talk about chakra systems, which are energy centers, right? And this is a great way when you're meditating to focus on these seven, there's more than seven, but the point is 7 energy centers of the body, right? Okay, so you focus on the 7 energy centers of the body and it allows you to align them. Well, guess what they happen to correspond with? The endocrine system. What is the endocrine system? Seriously, Shira? How do you know? Because we have technology. If we didn't, we'd be talking about chakras and it would be all metaphysical. But now that we have actual science to show that, oh my God, these people in the East, thousands of years ago, were talking about the endocrine system and they didn't even know it? They didn't need to, because they went inside and they got all their information from God. So they didn't need the information. That's why we're talking about science, because everybody wants information now. Whereas we could before, in the past, we were so connected with our Creator, we didn't need to go outside to get all the books and to get all the reading and all the tools and to do all the artist way and the artist date and do all the morning pages. No, we just went inside. We just meditated, which everyone is finding aberrant apparently. So that being said, they found out what this was by meditating. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, of course, meditation is listening. Meditating is receiving. So thus, if God can talk to you through the channel of meditation and you understood it and you didn't always have preconceived notions, and guess what? You would understand it because you wouldn't have judgment. You wouldn't have a block up. You wouldn't have limitations. You would simply understand it. And guess what? It would correspond with the endocrine system, which would be later found out 3,000 years later. That being said, endocrine system responds to your glandular systems. What are your glands responsible for? Hormone production. What's hormone production? You want to have babies. Chakra system. Ooh, you use it. Guess what? Pineal gland, awakening, third eye. Oh my God, eye of Horus, inside the brain, bisected. Thanks, Tay Queen, for giving me that information, which I totally peeped. Okay? Corresponds to all of the glandular systems, the chakra system. Ooh, well, what does that mean? Well, if you've ever looked up personality types, they base that off of the endocrine system. They base the colors off of that off the endocrine system. Not even probably knowing that they were talking about chakras. Chakras probably not even knowing that they were talking about endocrinology. And then you get into immune system, because the immune system can work with the endocrine system. And guess what happens with the immune system? Cancer. I want to do it again. Cancer. This stuff breaks down backwards, forwards, sideways, any way you cut it, it all breaks down. It all has, everything in the science world has a spiritual reflection. Let's talk about this reflection. I love when we talk about the subconscious mind, because we're going to talk about it right now. So I was talking about a mirror. We're talking about reflection. Okay. Has anyone ever gone to Macy's? This has happened to all of us. If this hasn't happened to you, you need this to happen to you this week. That is your artist date goal. How many of us have gone to Macy's? And you know how they have the mirrors that are facing one another? Like there's a mirror in front of you and there's a mirror in the exact same place behind you. What happens? Endless reflection. Like you can look in that mirror and you stupid. So you look in the mirror like, where does the reflection end at? It never ends. Okay, how about that one? It's always reflecting. You turn the lights out, granted you can't see it and perceive it. You turn the lights on. If you are in the mirror, guess what? There's infinite numbers of you because the mirrors reflect each other. It's not just a one-sided mirror. It's always a reflection of something else. So if you're looking at yourself physically, there is a physical reflection of you. If you're looking at yourself spiritually, there's a spiritual reflection of you. If you're looking at yourself spiritually, there's a physical reflection of your spirit. If you're looking at the physical reality, there's a physical reflection of your reality into your spiritual reality. If you look at a human being that's around you, they are reflective of something inside of you. If you're sitting on this couch, this is reflecting some manifestation of your internal belief and reality. And that's why beliefs are important. So let's talk about the brain as a computer, because the brain's also like a computer. The brain's like a computer. Consciousness is like a computer, and so is a computer. As above, so below. It's reflecting in all directions infinitely. That's why this analogy works. So the brain stores 280 quintillion bits of information. Now, your subconscious and conscious mind. Let's talk about what are they. The conscious mind analyzes, the conscious mind quantifies, the conscious mind processes things in a circuit fashion, one after the other. So, example, he talks about this truck, right? If a truck's about to hit you, you don't sit there and be like, is that a red truck? Is that a blue truck? Does it have 18 wheels? Does it have 16 wheels? Oh my God, is the driver black? Is he white? Does he have hair? I don't know if he has a tattoo. You don't do that. You get out of the damn way. Why do you do that? Because your subconscious mind takes over. So the purpose of your conscious mind is still necessary. However, it happens in a ratio of 10 to 90. Always, right? So the amount of information that you process in your conscious mind is 10% and 90% in your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind also processes what, 50 times faster? Is it 50 times faster? Get it, Shira. Don't know what you're talking about. Good. 500 times faster. I had to look for my notes. 500 times faster and in parallel form. So when your subconscious mind processes information, it processes several things at the same time faster than the conscious mind. 500 times faster. It also processes faster than any modern computer. What are you trying to say, Shira? I'm trying to say that if your mind can do that and you believe in computers, I need the web to work, Roadrunner. If you're so fixated on a computer, guess what your mind can do, man? So what if all the stuff that's stored in your mind from age 0 to 7 is garbage? 90% of what you do is based off of garbage. Now, you may go back and find out that guess what? Something that somebody implanted in there, that information was not null and void. Well, sure, I don't believe that anyone implanted anything in me. Well, there's a lovely exercise on page 90 that goes to page 94 that if you do it, even if you don't see it right away, you will see it. So you need to do it. First of all, it's writing, so you're going to do that. You're also reading. You're also thinking, and you're also analyzing your beliefs. You're given the tools to analyze your beliefs. You are not having to sit there and analyze them. So when you are little, right? Listen, you know the quote here, give me a child until 7 and I will give you the man, Ignatius of Loyola said, right? Give me a child until age 7 and I will give you the man. What does that mean? That means everything you learn is from 0 to 7. After that, you're simply taking that which you learned and applying it. But you're always based off of those first 7 years. That is why, that is when you can learn languages. That is when you learn your beliefs. You as an individual will not change, okay? That's the beauty of it. But however, whatever happened to you is who you are. It's hard for people to believe that. We believe so much in our self-importance that we believe we've done everything. Well, no. Actually, someone's done it for you. And if they've done a crummy job and you don't know it, how would you know? Like I said last week, do you think for 2 seconds that those individuals in this world who are creating havoc physically, and I don't just mean mentally, because we all create havoc mentally, but do you think that those individuals in this world who have physically murdered, harmed, or hurt somebody physically, do you believe that they all think they're wrong? Seriously, can some of these people justify their own actions? We know one of them. His name is... well, his initials are GZ, but he's not the only one. We got some other ones, OJ. But some people seem to have justified, look, I know that I'm talking about current events and it's controversial, but the truth is, unless someone is apologizing for the murder of another individual, then they have not come to terms with the fact that they've physically done something that they don't feel justified in. They feel justified, is what I'm trying to say. So do you think all these people who feel justified in physically harming someone, haven't you hit somebody in your life, or smacked somebody, or shook somebody, or pinched somebody, or whatever you've done? Haven't you physically assaulted someone somewhere in your life? People are going to suppress that memory like hell. But just think of a time, even if it's your child, when you you know? Or think of a person who, stop, you know, you push them off you. Anytime you physically, I've done it, so let's not talk, you know, not with my child, but I've done it to people. But let's just think of times in our life when we've physically been the aggressor. Physically. Whether we get in someone's face and we kind of like, whatever it is that we do, okay? It doesn't have to be as extreme as murder. But how many times have we felt justified in it? Well, he shouldn't have came over, right? So we're justified in these physical actions. Well, where is the justification coming from? Belief system. So that being said, we cannot see the patterns that have created our current reality. We can't see them, so therefore we don't know how to change them. It's so hard to change beliefs. It's so hard to change beliefs because you just don't know that you believe that. And even if you thought that you did believe it, you don't believe that you believe it. That's how deep it is. That's how deeply ingrained it is. And it's in your subconscious mind. So if your subconscious mind is so strong and it's storing 90% of the data, right? It's a 90-10 rule. So you take the 90-10 rule and you realize that your subconscious mind stores data, right? Then, oh my God, Shira, are you telling me that I think that I'm hideously ugly because someone told me sometime some long ago and I believe it and I don't even know that it's them who said that to me? I think that I just am ugly. I just believe I'm ugly. I thought that until I was 22. I thought I was hideous and fat. And I still have 4 boobs, but that's okay. Because obviously I think something of myself that I sit here and well, not obviously, but I do. I've overcome that aspect of my body consciousness issue. I've overcome that aspect. Why? Because I had to change my beliefs. And it's spontaneous, as you are learning in this book. It's not something that you sit there and think and mull over. It's instantaneous. The minute that you no longer see that reality, it no longer can function for you. And that's why it's difficult for beliefs. So the only thing we can do with beliefs, we can't sit here and try to change every belief that we have because we don't know. There are unknown unknowns. They're so deeply embedded within our subconscious mind. We actually believe these things. Like I said, I believed until age 22 that I genuinely was ugly and fat. I genuinely believed it. You could not tell me I wasn't ugly or fat. I will prove you wrong. In fact, I would spend so much of my time trying to prove to people that I was ugly, even if they had not told me I was ugly. And this is not a direct thing. I didn't sit there and say, I'm going to prove that I'm ugly. It wasn't literal. But I spent so much time changing my clothes, changing my hair, crying about what I looked like, being unhappy when we were already out in the life of Chicago somewhere. You know, we were partying or going out, and I was hating myself every moment of it because I thought I was so ugly. It monopolized my brain. And I didn't even think that I was thinking about that. I just thought it was naturally something I had to deal with. I never stopped to analyze it, ever. For 22 years. Never stopped to analyze what I was doing to myself, just thinking that was what it was. That's a belief. It's something you don't even see that you do all the time. It comes out in your actions. If you want to know, look at your environment. Hell, I wasn't liking the way my life was going last week. I was not liking it at all. You know what I did? I rearranged my room. Why? Because as above, so below. I said, if I rearrange this room, I'm hoping to attract to me some new things because this is not the orientation of the room that I'm used to. So therefore, I can no longer attract the same things. My physical space, again, you can do it very literally. You can do it with your envision board, right? The other idea is to make patterns that you already want to see manifest. So instead of looking at the beliefs themselves directly, because you can't always do it. Like I said, it's spontaneous. That's why it's called spontaneous healing of belief. It's not something that you do over time. Granted, vision class will help you, but it's something that just happens on its own. Right? Spontaneous combustion. Something just sets on fire. We don't even know where it ignited from. It just does. So that being said, when you have spontaneous healing of belief, there's another way to believe what you'd like to believe in and not that which has been given to you, because we don't know what we've been given. We think those are our real beliefs. That's why we don't want to research. That's why people don't want to ask questions. Because they might find out that, and they know subconsciously, and that's the funny thing. The subconscious is so deep, it actually is telling you, like, yeah, you don't want to read that Eckhart Tolle, because you might hear something that you ain't ready to hear. You'll feel deceived. You'll feel tricked out of your false sense of security. It's false though. So we're gonna have to open your eyes, right? So how do we do that? Well, of course, we can conjure up our own patterns. We don't have to necessarily know the old patterns, we just make new ones, right? We talked about this pillow, we make a pattern out of it. Listen, hey, We don't need to know that this is a pillow. We don't need to care about that. We just need to look at it as what it is, fabric, right? Look at it in a different way. That's all we're doing. So we may not say to ourselves, I want to change my beliefs. No, no, no. We may do something different. We may just say, you know what? I want to believe that which is ultimately true. That may be our agreement. That may be our affirmation. That may be the new pattern of belief that we set down. But what happens is when you send it out into the universe, as above, so below, when you send it out, now it could be sent to you first, right? Have you ever had a really good day and you're energized and it allows you to breathe life into things? That's why we're doing that with the envision board. But have you had a really good day and then everything starts going well? Because your energy is so high that it now vibrates into everything else. So it can work opposite way, but we can control ourselves. We can't control all the time the influence of the outside. So how do we change it? We manifest the pattern that we want to manifest. So the idea this week as you go forward after listening to this lecture is recognize that number one, there are tumors in your body. They're there. I don't care who you are. I don't care what stage of awakening and consciousness you're in. This girl right here, I have them. I find them every day. But the key to finding a tumor is to know how to look. And the only way to know how to look is with the proper tools. We're giving you those tools in vision class. One of those tools is belief. How do we begin to look and see what our tumors are? We may not be able to get rid of all the tumors, okay? We may not be able to go in individually and find all the tumors, but if we get rid of the disease which is, the start codon in the DNA that tells your, whatever, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but that's telling your cancer to replicate, to go. We just want to put the stop on it, the stop codon. We just say, I know the stop codon is for creating the double helix, but whatever, your DNA changes with your beliefs, so I think it's a valid point. You want to change your DNA. And I couldn't really get to that today. I will probably get into it next week because we actually do read about it. But the DNA literally changes. So we understand that we create a pattern in order to create our DNA, right? So what if we change the pattern? So we change the pattern by setting out what we choose to now believe. And even if we don't know what that is yet, we still know what we want in our hearts. And we ask our hearts to dictate that new pattern. So what I'm asking you to do now as you go through your week is to look at the patterns of your life. Do you go to work in a slump every day? That's a pattern. Do you always pick outfits that you end up not feeling lovely about? I feel great about this outfit actually. But anyways, the point is, do you pick outfits that make you feel good? Do you feel happy, right? Is everything in your day deliberate? If not, it's a pattern. It's going to force you to look at the tumor, and what it's going to force you to do is say, you know what? I'm going to develop a medicine. While I can't get rid of all the tumors by looking at them individually, I can get rid of the tumors by shifting my body into balance with a new pattern, my new medicine. So looking at your patterns and things in your life and looking at a new pattern. And where does the pattern start? With belief, with your thought. So if you can change your thoughts, then you change your beliefs. And that is why I do thought replacement. And that is why every day I choose the agreement I will remain present, right? I even erase people's pictures if I know it's going to keep me lingering in the past. I erase their pictures so I can stay fixated on the present. I do whatever I can to make that pattern true, right? So change your pattern. We'll see you next week. The last week, you have an extension. You have an additional week for your envision board, so really take your time with these. And we will be culminating class next week with our final lecture. We will talk about who is going to be the valedictorian and salutatorian. I've actually already picked the valedictorian. Salutatorian, I'm still waiting for divine guidance on who that is and why. Though I have a feeling in my core who it is. And I will contact you, and I'll also announce you next week. And we will talk about faith, which is the hardest one to do, but I think if it can be mastered, then you can do anything. And we will also get a testimonial video from me that I've erased, so I'll have to re-record, where I'm going to tell you exactly how I've manifested all the things in my life based on belief and faith. So, see you next week. Peace and peace.